There is a quarter sitting somewhere in America right now, in a dresser drawer, a mason jar, a dealer's junk box, that is worth more than most people's cars. Not because it's gold, not because it's rare in the way a museum piece is rare, but because it came out of the right mint on the right year and survived the last 90 years without someone ruining it. 10 Washington quarters exist in this series that can bring anywhere from several $100s to figures approaching $500,000 at auction, and the unsettling part is that some of them have passed through ordinary hands, ordinary change, ordinary rolls from the bank, without anyone knowing what they were holding. My name is Albert, and I have spent 40 years working coin shows, estate sales, and flea market tables across this country, specifically chasing Washington quarters, not because they're the flashiest series in American coinage, but because they are the most consistently underestimated one. I built field notebooks cross-referencing mint mark positions, die varieties, and strike quality on these coins long before that information was easy to find, because the dealers who already knew it had no particular reason to share it with me. In this video, I am going to walk you through 10 specific Washington quarters worth serious attention, what to look for on each one, what physical details matter, and what those details actually mean for value. By the end, you will know exactly what to check the next time you are looking at a handful of change or a dealer's junk box, so you're not walking away from money you did not know was there. Number 1. Picture a flea market table in the early 1980s. A dealer has a cardboard box labeled miscellaneous quarters, 25 cents each, and a collector working through it pulls out a 1932D, pays face value, and walks away. Years later, that coin sells for a figure that makes the dealer's hands go cold when he hears about it. The 1932 D Washington quarter is the anchor of this entire series, and the reason serious collectors pay attention to Washington quarters at all. Red Book price guides report its Denver mint production at approximately 436,000 coins, compared to the million struck at Philadelphia that same year, making it one of the lowest mintage issues in the entire Washington quarter run. What you're looking for on the reverse is a clear D mint mark sitting below the eagle, and on the obverse, strong definition in the hair above Washington's ear, and sharp lines in the eagle's breast feathers on the back. Cleaning is the destroyer here. A cleaned example loses most of its premium instantly, and a coin that has been wiped or polished will show hairlines under a loupe that no amount of optimism can explain away. A circulated example in honest good condition can bring several $100s. A certified mint state example operates in a different conversation entirely. This week, pull every 1932 quarter you can find and check that reverse for a D below the eagle. That single letter is the difference between face value and a significant payday. Number 2. A collector inherits a small album from an uncle who casually kept quarters through the 1930s. Inside, slipped into a cardboard slot with no special marking, is a 1932 S. The uncle never knew. The nephew almost didn't either. The 1932 S Washington quarter is the companion key date, struck at the San Francisco Mint with a reported production figure in Red Book references, sitting near 408,000 coins, making it the rarer of the two 1932 branch mint issues by raw number. The S mint mark sits in the same position on the reverse below the eagle, and the same quality standards apply. Undamaged surfaces, no evidence of cleaning or polishing, and strong strike at the high points. A cleaned 1932 S is a painful thing to encounter, because what should be a substantial coin becomes a substantially diminished one the moment someone decided to shine it up. Albert's field notebooks have multiple entries on this exact subject because he watched it happen at tables in front of him. A coin. Let me pause the count a moment. What years of sorting through old coins teaches a man does not fit inside one short video. I set the whole of it down in a book, on the QR code on screen, or the pinned comment with the link. Have a look, or carry on without it. That is my only word on it. Coin worth real money handed over for a price that reflected only the damage done to it. Check every 1932 quarter you encounter for both mint marks, the D and the S, because finding one in an old collection is not as unlikely as it sounds. Number 3. A dealer at a regional show in the Midwest sets out a tray of common date Washington quarters, priced at a few dollars each. One collector notices something in the surface of a 1934 Philadelphia issue, a doubling in the lettering, and quietly sets it aside. The dealer never saw it. The 1934 double die obverse is one of the more striking error varieties documented in this series, and the doubling is visible to the naked eye, or with a basic 5-power loop, most clearly in Washington's lettering and in the date itself. This is not a coin that requires laboratory equipment to identify. It requires knowing what die doubling looks like and where to look for it, which means owning the right reference. The Stanton White Washington Quarter Variety Guide is the standard, and it catalogs this variety with enough detail to make a confident identification. Here is the plain truth about why this knowledge faded. Dealers working general inventory have no financial incentive to learn variety attribution on common date coins, because the upside goes to the buyer, not to them. Somebody profits when you do not know this, and in this case, it is whoever bought the coin from you before you found the guide. Pick up the Stanton White reference. It is available used for less than the cost of a single certified coin, and spend one evening learning what double dies look like on Washington quarters. Number 4. An estate sale somewhere in the mid-Atlantic states, a mason jar full of old quarters sits on a folding table marked "Make an Offer." Inside, mixed with Depression-era pocket change, is a 1935S in a grade that any experienced eye would flag immediately as above average for the date. The 1935S is not a key date by mintage figures alone, but original, uncleaned examples in higher circulated grades are genuinely scarce in the market, and this is exactly the kind of gap between book value and actual market behavior that cost Albert money early in his collecting life before he started tracking it himself. The San Francisco Mint's strike quality in this era was inconsistent, and finding a sharply struck 1935 S, full eagle breast feathers, original surface, no cleaning, is harder than the production numbers suggest. Standard price guide values do not capture the premium that condition and originality carry on this date. The lesson here is one Albert repeats throughout his notebooks. Mintage tells you how many were made, not how many survived looking the way they should. When you are working an estate sale or a junk box, do not skip over 1935 S quarters on the assumption that they're common. Grade them honestly with your loop before you put them back. Number 5. A collector buys a small lot at auction, described as mixed dates, circulated, and finds a 1936D near the bottom of the group in a grade the auction house apparently missed entirely. The 1936D carries a montage from standard references of approximately 5.3 million coins. Not a key date by that number alone, but population reports from major grading services document a consistent scarcity in higher circulated and lower mint state grades that experienced collectors have tracked for decades. The explanation is straightforward and unglamorous. Coins that circulated through the Depression years and the wartime economy lived hard lives, and examples that came through that period with their surfaces intact are proportionally rare relative to how many were originally made. PCGS and NGC population data support what Albert's own market observations confirmed over many years. The 1936D in grades MS-64 and above is meaningfully scarce, and that scarcity has direct price consequences that a standard Red Book entry will not fully reflect. Examine every 1936D you encounter under a loop before deciding it is a spender. Number 6. A longtime collector reviewing his own holdings notices that a 1937 quarter he bought years ago as a filler has a reverse that looks sharper than the others in the album. The eagle's breast feathers have a definition that most examples simply do not carry. He pulls out his reference. He was right to stop and look. Strike quality on the reverse eagle is a value driver in Washington quarters that casual collectors and some dealers consistently underweight, and the 1937 Philadelphia issue is a date where a fully struck example, sharp breast feathers, full wingtip definition, no softness at the high points, commands a premium over a technically same grade example with a weak strike. PCGS Coin Facts and NGC Price Guide databases reflect this, as does population data on coins carrying a designated full detail strike notation. Learning to evaluate strike separately from grade was, by Albert's own account in his field notebooks, the single skill that most changed what he paid and what he received. Practice it on every Washington quarter you handle. Number 7. A woman brings her late father's quarters to a coin show in a wooden box he kept since the 1950s. The first dealer gives her a low bulk offer without looking closely. The dealer at the third table spots a 1942 D over D repunched mint mark and makes a very different calculation. Repunched mint marks run through the Washington Quarter series, and generalist dealers routinely overlook them because learning variety attribution on mid-series dates requires effort that pays the buyer, not the seller. On a repunched mint mark, the D was punched into the working die more than once, leaving a visible secondary image that a loop will catch. The Stanton White reference catalogs confirmed repunched mint mark varieties with enough specificity to make a solid identification. Not every repunched mint mark commands a dramatic premium, but the documented, well-attributed ones in collectible grades regularly bring multiples of the base date value. When you're examining any Washington quarter from the 1930s through the 1940s, check the mint mark under magnification before moving on. Number 8. A collector at a coin show picks up a 1950 D Washington quarter, holds it under the dealer's lamp, and sets it back. He did not know that in certain grades it is one of the more undervalued semi-key dates in the series. The dealer said nothing. The 1950 D sits in a range of dates that post-war collectors frequently skip past on their way to the earlier key dates. But Red Book values and grading service population reports both reflect a persistent scarcity in mint state grades, particularly SS65 and above, that the raw mintage figure does not predict. Original unimpaired examples with strong luster and minimal contact marks are genuinely difficult to locate at fair prices. Albert's field experience consistently showed that the semi-key dates in the early 1950s Washington quarter run were where patient collectors, working their own research, found the better long-term value precisely because the dealer market had not fully priced them. Do not overlook 1950 D quarters in dealer stock. Check the grade before you decide it is ordinary. Number 9. A collector sorting through a bankroll in the early 1960s pulls out a coin whose luster catches the light differently from the others. He is holding a 1960 D in a grade that belongs in a certified holder rather than a bankroll, and he does not know it yet. High-grade business strike Washington quarters from the early 1960s represent a category where population reports reveal meaningful scarcity at the top of the grade scale, even for dates that seem plentiful at lower grades. The 1960 D in MS67 or above is documented in grading service records as a coin with very few certified examples, and the gap between an MS65 and an MS67 on this date is not incremental. It is the kind of gap that separates a modest collector holding from a registry competitive coin worth pursuing seriously. Albert describes this tier of collecting in his notebooks as the place where the registry set market, collectors competing to own the finest certified example of a given date, drives prices far beyond what any standard guide reflects. Common date, uncommon grade. Learn to read the difference. Number 10. A collector at an estate sale outside of Denver handles a small cardboard album from the 1960s and flips to the Washington quarter section. In a slot for what should be a routine date, there is a coin whose surface shows a doubling he was not expecting. He is looking at a confirmed double die variety on a date most people treat as routine filler. Documented double die varieties appear across multiple decades in the Washington Quarter Series and regularly surface in circulated collections precisely because nobody was watching for them when the coins were new. These are not the result of catastrophic equipment failure. They came from a die hubbing process that occasionally left a secondary impression in the working die, and that die then struck thousands of coins before anyone caught it. Knowing which dates and which specific die marriages to target requires the Stanton White variety reference and a willingness to spend an evening learning the attribution markers, a cheap investment against what a confirmed variety in collectible condition can bring. The coins have been out there for the better part of a century. The only thing that ever stood between a collector and one of them was knowing what they were holding.